G'day, Doggies fans, all things Bulldogs. It's episode 47. Sorry for to those people that expected something last week during the week, but it's all good. We got the win, and that's all that matters. I need to get more organised. The aim will be to sort of have something more regular at a certain time, especially when I line up some people to come on. So just me today, unless somebody jumps in and says they want to join, I'll send them a link. Let me know if you want to join the podcast. You can. I open that up to almost anyone. Yeah, so what a win on the weekend. It wasn't our best performance. Many people questioning the attack, but obviously caught up in the moment with Matty Burton kicking another field goal to win us a game. I think that's the third game he's won us with a field goal. We won with the exact same scoreline last year in May, I think in round 5 or 6 against the Cowboys. We got the win after being behind the whole match, though, and then got that Matty Burton field goal from the 40 metres out wide, which was phenomenal. He nearly got 2 more of them before he got the winner. The winner still was a tough shot, 30 metres out. Very special boot, and that kept us in the match. But I really want to talk about the run to September. Many of us obviously feeling excited, feeling that we're going to make the finals, that there's no reason they can't. Will small ball get us there? I'm just going to go through the pros and cons about what's going on at the moment, what I think needs to happen if we are going to change. If we are going to challenge. Are we pretenders or contenders? That's going to be the question. It's the closest competition that's been in a long time. The last 2 wins, especially against Parramatta and against the Sharks, have been so important. The wins against Newcastle, every win has been so important. We know that, but it just feels like every week it's on the precipice sort of thing, and it's just the difference between success and failure with this ladder is going to be huge. But yet again, we've just seen the Dragons have just beaten the Dolphins, which teams ahead of us, the Sharks, the Dolphins, both lost this week. We've got 2 more games to finish out the weekend, Cowboys and Penrith. You know, probably want the likes of Penrith to win this match, and they've got a very weakened side against a Cowboys side that is going to be primed for a big performance. They've still only had the 1 bye, so they're higher on the ladder than they look. A loss for them for Penrith. We need teams like the Cowboys to sort of keep losing because they've got a pretty good run home. The Warriors have got a fair run home. And their win over the Broncos was very timely for them. And then we play them now. So, look, they're only 3 points behind us. They get a win over us at our home ground next week. It's going to be, that's another huge game for both sides. The game for the Sharks was huge for them as far as their minor premiership aspirations. For their top 4, they've still got what I consider to be the easiest run home of all the sides, and that's been the case for about 3 or 4 years. And I don't know why it keeps panning out that way. The draw has a lot of questions around it to be answered. And for us, we've got a tough draw. But in saying that, the way we're playing, can we win? Can we do it? James Graham made some really strong points. He was obviously very excited and passionate about that win by the Bulldogs on Friday night, as was everybody else. One of our first primetime matches of the season on a Friday night, which was great. And look, I liked lots of parts of what we did, and I'm going to break that down, but what James Graham was speaking about was that teams are basically looking at us on paper and saying, yep, I've got that covered. We're going to have a good night tonight, guys. We're going to run over the Bulldogs. And once we relinquished possession to the Sharks, they did it pretty easily for the next 60 minutes. So we started well, we maintained possession, didn't throw a lot at them, but just kept peppering the middle and got some success through a soft try to meet Reed Marnie due to their fatigue and, a mix-up with a try to kick out. G'day, Aussie guy. G'day, Scary79. I've got Connor Tracy, Jacob Preston. I don't think Josh Adokar will be in the squad this week to face the Warriors, but I've put the likely squad for this week that I think will run out pending no injuries. I think Skelton's the one that'll drop out. I think Preston will start from the bench. He'll return on the bench, and Hotboy will be the one to make way for Jacob Preston. I think they may take the big fella, Pawasa Fa'amasili, across. Need to actually look at how they're going in the New South Wales Cup at the moment. That game should be getting close to finishing. I couldn't find it anywhere on TV. We lost to the Bears, unfortunately, 18 points to 10. We led them. They got 3 penalty goals. It was 10-all at half time, and they ran away with it in the second half. A fairly good-looking side. We've got a lot of big fellows that come back this week. Liam Knight made his return. Chris Patolo playing. Pawasa Fa'amasili. And Jack Todd. So Knight, Todd, and Patolo all back. And they played the team coming first in the North Sydney Bears, who had the likes of Remus Smith playing for them. So now the Melbourne Storm Feeder Club. But the returns of those big guys is something I want to talk about as we move into the rest of the season, because it's going to be imperative, I think, that we change a couple of things. Looking at that game, in spite of what James Graham's saying, that this small ball can potentially just keep winning over, I felt that the Sharks, when we went set for them, Matt Burton's boot obviously kept us in it. Our boys scrambled so well that you've got to be just so proud of the way they've scrambled all season. The missed tackles, a lot of the time, a player's been knocked over. G'day, Aussie guy. Players like Kikau, Hayward, Salmon, even Josh Curran, most of the side, really, a lot of those little guys get in there, get low, knock the players down, and then the rest of them take care of it through that line speed. Sam Tanuri, g'day Sam. We need some big forwards to make meters to the too small up front. Well, this is what I want to talk about. I think there has to be a phase 3, because we're now into this part of the season where it's pretenders or contenders, right? And the thing is, I watched the Warriors coming up against the Warriors after we just played the Sharks. It's basically like for like what they're going to bring. Back 3, which run hard and at 100 miles an hour and run fast. Strong centres, meters and workmen that are going to take a lot of pressure off their forwards, and then they have the big boys rolling off tackle 3 and 4. And the Warriors have made the most meters out of any team in the competition. And basically, what we just faced against the Sharks for that 40-minute period, once they got sort of wrestled control back, what happened there is that we went set for set, and our kicks went long, and Matt Burton really helped in that regard. They were making probably, 45 meters per set. We were only making about 30 to 35, but Matt Burton was kicking the rest of that distance. So overall, the kicking, our surplus in kick meters was the same as their surplus in running meters. So it sort of balanced itself out that way. So it gives you that impression that one team's well on top because of the way that they're rolling through the middle. Our kicking is keeping us in the game. You take Matt Burton out of that equation, and we're going to struggle a lot. We're going to struggle big time because we just don't have the depth of kick that he can generate, even under a lot of pressure. And that sort of should just, for everyone, put to bed the center situation. You know, when we're depleted, I didn't mind him moving to center against the Roosters. I didn't think there was much other options in that game, and it really didn't cost us. I don't believe it really cost us the result. I think they play a different part of the field and adjust differently if Burton stays in the 5'8" role, and I think we would have been weakened on that edge. And I really believe Manu would have had a field day. Instead, they just played to their strengths in other areas and only went to Burton once he was tired, and Manu put one on him. What I meant was Josh Adokar, Jacob Preston and Connor Tracy were sorely missed on Friday night and stuffed up the team's cohesion, but Preston and Tracy back. Preston and Tracy back next Saturday. Burton had a great game, but those 3 high bombs that Crows caught in a row was very underrated in that part of the game. Well, it's funny, Sam, because obviously Carraz having to play at that level, he caught those 3 bombs fantastically, and then the 4th one, he just didn't have it in him to jump up for the next one, and they somehow got that try, which was ridiculous. The try from the kick from the try to Braden Trindle. Skelton held him up there, and he got the kick away. Then they, when Blake Taft come on, it was really timely to get him on for 20 minutes. He ran the ball 9 times and was phenomenal, and we don't win that game without him. We don't get down into the positions that we got. It was great to put Blake Taff on in that situation. But, look, the coach knew that we were going to play a pretty conservative game. Stephen Crichton was late to the party a few times. He didn't have it in his legs. He was obviously struggling, but was there to try and, you know, be there for the team. And I think if he doesn't play, we might get more, you know, might have had some better attack. But I think overall we may not have made some of the tackles we made. It's just one of those things that you've got to weigh up. Old stagers like myself look at that game and go, we've been, you know, Sharks showed exactly how you beat Canterbury, but were unable to beat us because their halves. I felt Trindle was all right, and I felt his kicking was very pinpoint, but Nico Hines, the timidness of his play, yep, he kept getting the ball. Yep, he kicked about a third of the time, which is less for him. Obviously, he's not kicking as much because of his injury, but he's timid into the contact, into the attack. If they had I think if Toby Sexton or Matt Burton were playing for Cronulla on the weekend, the Sharks win by 20 because they laid the platform. They turned up in defence. They played well. That obviously a slow start for them, but we controlled possession and put them under a lot of pressure. But once they wrestled that back through some really stupid errors from our guys and stupid penalties, you know, there was nothing that we could really do. We were just scrambling like I hadn't, you know, which was phenomenal. But it's not going to hold up for the next 10 weeks. I don't believe that's going to be able to hold up against the sides like Penrith. I'm even worried against the Warriors this next week. Obviously, getting some more attack and going back to Aussie guys' point, having players like Tracy there would have definitely helped our cohesion. Having Critter not back up after 2 days of playing Origin is going to be great for us. Having Jacob Preston is just going to give us that better edge play. But in saying that, Jamin Salmon, he made about 5 or 6 runs, which were some of the best of his runs for the season. I noticed he was running a little bit wider and not quite as straight and with a little bit more leg speed. Obviously something they've worked on to make him more effective on that edge. And I felt that, you know, he only made 70 or 80 metres or something like that. But I just felt they were all very important runs in the scheme of things when I looked at it. But Jacob Preston, he brings a whole new dynamic to that edge when he gets going. So There's no second-year syndrome for Jake. He's just a great kid, a great player, but it's more so also his defence. And I like it because it can bring Jamin Salmon back into the middle of the field. And we also get Kurt Mann back this week. Having Kurt Mann is going to be really important to our chances as well. I think Bailey Haywood is a great kid and a great up-and-comer, but in our strongest 17, I don't think he's there yet. I think the way they've managed this season's been fantastic. I really love what they've done to bring these young kids through and have them contribute through this time. And we've had some really important wins that we probably wouldn't get without some of these guys doing the job that they've done. But I think in phase 3, as we move to phase 3, which would be the run to September, and then you got phase 4, which is the finals, and hopefully we qualify. I'm going to go through each of the games on the run home, but I just think, like, it all starts with the Warriors this week. Such an important game. They had that win over the Broncos. Then we got the bye, and then we go to the Cowboys in Townsville, followed by a 6-day turnaround into the Broncos in Brisbane. Then they come back, I think, into an 8-day turnaround against either the Dragons or the Raiders back to Belmore. Dragons is at Cogra, where they had a good win today. And then they play the Raiders at Belmore, which, that's a game. The Raiders love a big crowd. Everyone's going to be telling them how they're not going to be the favourites again, and they're going to turn up. I think these are 5 massive games of rugby league. If we can win 3 of those matches, that takes us to 26 points. And add on to that the bye, that's 28 points. I believe the way I've gone through the ladder predictor and looking at all the games that I think are going to win. And then you go, okay, there's going to be a whole heap of upsets amongst that. You're probably looking at a ladder that's going to qualify at 28 points with a better for and against. Some people are saying 32 to 30. I just think there's too many teams involved and too much inconsistency in the way things are panning out. That, if we get 3 wins over that period, it's going to be, I think we're going to qualify for the finals. Get 4 or 5 wins and we're a chance of top 4. That's how close it's going to be run. Top 4 is going to be very difficult, though, because the Roosters also have that game in hand and they look really, really strong with their run home. The Sharks have an easy run home. I expect Penrith to win the majority of their matches and have Nathan Cleary join at the right time where they'll build into that. But I still think they're vulnerable at the moment. And the Melbourne Storm, who I can't believe is sitting on top of the ladder, they don't look impressive at all, and that's what's scary. So those 4 teams look to me like they've got the top 4 to themselves. The other positions in the 8 are going to be very, very it's going to come down to probably 8 or 9 sides, and that's just unheard of this far out. So, yes, it's a really good effort from our guys to be in the position they're in. Like, we could be sitting on 26 points quite easily, but I look at that game against the Sharks as one where I didn't feel we were the better side over 80 minutes, and we won. So let's say, we could be on 24 points right now, heading into a game against the Warriors and the bye. We could, after the bye, we could have been almost qualified for the finals had we got 2 of the wins we should have got, which is, coulda, shoulda, woulda, didn't. So let's look at the run home. Let's have a look at it, hey? I'm going to get it up for us and share it with you guys. What do we got up there? So, let's look at the ladder first. We're sitting on 5th. The Dolphins just lost. And in losing, their differential took a hit. They were just behind us. Dragons have moved into 7th spot, equal on points with us. So we've got the Roosters who are playing right now against the West Tigers. I'm pretty sure. Oh, they'll be playing later on at 6 o'clock against the West Tigers. And you got Penrith versus the Cowboys. If the Cowboys win this match, they theoretically go ahead of the Bulldogs and all those teams on 20 points because they've got that extra buy-in. And the Roosters the same. They probably jump to 5th spot. If Penrith win, it sort of keeps them down where they are. Warriors now on 17 points. 2 wins for them and they get back in the 8. So they're going to be primed for a huge match against us Bulldogs, who are 7-0 from home, 1-7 away. Our average loss has been only 10 points, which is like 3rd or 4th best in the competition. Our average win is 17 points, which is about 3rd or 4th best in the competition. We're 4-1 in day games and 4-6 in night games. So that's another thing to look at. We're playing a day game against the Warriors next Saturday. Warriors are 2-4 in the day, 5-4 in the night. That's another thing to look at. Their average win is 16. Their average loss is 16. Their average win is 14. So here we go. This ladder, it is intriguing to say the least. And teams like the Rabbits and Titans are still a possibility of making the finals. And that's unheard of to go down that far. And even the West, if the West Tigers win today, there's still a chance of playing finals. Unbelievable. I think you can write off the Eels at this point. Although I think they will climb from where they are. The Knights, I don't see them making the 8. But we're in it up to our necks. Up to our necks. So let's look at the Warriors game. 3 p.m. Saturday at a call before we head into a bye. The Warriors side against the Broncos dominated. They dominated the meters yet again. Conceded 5 line breaks to 2, which was interesting. Very interesting to see. They're a good side. They are a good side who have underperformed. Sorry, my son's trying to ring me. They're a good side that have underperformed. But they're only 3 points outside 5th place. That's how close this competition is. Last week, they got their pants pulled down by the Titans. The Titans, that was the smallest side that they had fielded all season. The smallest side. And even the Warriors in that match seemed to play a bit of small ball. But against the Broncos obviously didn't have Payne Huss and Patrick Carrigan. And Reece Walsh not in their side. It hurt them. The Warriors played a very similar match. It was a pretty good game. I watched it. Played a very similar match to what we saw from the Sharks against the Bulldogs, except probably had a little bit more resistance in the middle. Corey had a good game. The front rower, Corey Jensen. But, Adam Fanua-Blake was running roughshod. The back 3 did their job. The Broncos tried to play a game that could beat them. But, Warriors had just maintained possession, played that game of set for set and ground out a pretty easy win. And the possession reflected the scoreline in the game that they had over the Broncos. And, look, I wouldn't be writing the Broncos off yet when you got Payne Huss and Patrick Carrigan to come in that side. And those young props, you know, losing a player like Flegler, those young props, Willison and then you got Brennan Piacora on the edge. They're missing Jordan Ricky, who I think's been one of their best players over the last 2 years. They are going to be cause a lot of trouble, and you know the Dogs are going to have to play Brisbane at Suncorp after going to Townsville, which isn't going to be easy. If we can get 2 points out of that road trip, you know, pencil us in for finals, because that's going to tell us a lot about our side. And it's almost like we say that every week about the Bulldogs. It's almost like we say that every week. You know, this game is going to tell us a lot about our credentials, and I think for the old stages like myself, where you want those big middles. Sam mentioned it a lot. Going back to his comment, we need some big forwards to make meters, because you know if you've got a halfback or a set of halves that can take advantage of the platform that was laid by a team like the Sharks against us on the weekend, we wouldn't have won that match. I just have to say it. But we had so many players out as well. The Sharks had nobody out as far as I could see. They had their best team on the field. That's their best side. It doesn't get better for them. That's their best team. G'day, Big Roo, up the bloody Dogs. That's right, mate. But yeah, the Sharks had their best team. We were missing our, you know, Presto, Tracy, and obviously Critter backing up from Origin, and Kurt Mann. So that likely squad that I've got going down the bottom there, as I said, Jarrell Skelton's likely to be the one to step out, just the way they've been doing things. Wilson tried his heart out on the weekend. They made a lot of commentary about how he was just getting dominated and owned, which I felt interesting. I think Kurt Mann comes straight into the lock position to start. Hayward back to the bench. Now, Hayward made about 15 or 16 runs on the weekend and 100 tackles. Most of his runs, he was just dominated. But he got to his belly well. Like he didn't make any post-contact, but he got to his belly and played the ball pretty quickly. So he was trying to generate stuff there. There was a couple of times I felt he ran where he could have passed, but in hindsight, I think they were following a game plan that was a conservative game plan to, you know, I think the way the game went was exactly how they were coached and trained to do things. There was just too much not in our favour going against us. And that crowd obviously helped as well. There was a great night from all reports at Accor Stadium with the light show and all the fireworks and all that sort of stuff. But I think we're going to see a similar thing from the Warriors. Now, they're going to likely have Sean Johnson's not there, but the players that they have in their side are pretty bloody good. Sorry about that. But their halves, they've got Channel Harris Tavita. He scored a try against the Broncos. And Tiari Martin, who always has a good game against the Bulldogs from what every time I watch him play, whether it was when he made his comeback for the Broncos against us and when he's played us, he's always been involved and done good things. But this team list, you got Nickel Clodstack, DWZ, RTS, Adam Pompey, Marcelo Montoya, Harris Tavita, Tiari Martin, Egan Barnett, Fanua Blake, Nakore, Kurt Capewell, and Dylan Walker. Like, this is their best side. Except for missing SJ, this is their best team. Jackson Ford, Tohu Harris, Freddie Lussick, and Jazz Tavega on the bench. That is probably their most mobile bench that they've had. And we're just seeing it now. It's people are reverting to one player with a bit more mobility and one less big bopper. Because there's no way, and none of these blokes are small in Ford, Tohu Harris, and Jazz Tavega, but they're not huge. Tohu and Jackson Tohu plays at lock most of the time. He doesn't play prop. And Jackson plays on an edge. Freddie Lussick can play his small lock position to go in and out with Walker. And then you've got Taviga, who can sort of cover anywhere from hooker to lock to front row. It's a very good team, and one that should be a lot higher up the ladder than it is. And I'm glad we're playing them at home. Very glad that we're playing them at home. I'll just say hello to a few people. Dogs are smaller forwards is a thing that the big forwards is a thing of the past. G'day, Lakeside. As the game gets faster, big forwards are getting lazy. I'd say they're probably getting tired. Look at AFB isn't playing great. I felt he had a good game on the weekend, mate, and I felt that they had a more mobile bench than they'd had. They'd gone for that one less big bopper. And, you know, they actually tried it against the Titans, but the Titans have been working towards having that extra mobility on their bench, and obviously got a lot of injuries as well. And the Titans smashed them, but back at home against a depleted Broncos side, they did the job and they played that big ball up the middle. But as I said, it's a bit more mobility in the way the bench was picked. Bigger forwards get gassed a lot quicker these days due to the pace of the game. They certainly do. And that's why I really like what Canterbury have done, because it's like a new standard. It's like we're seeing the unearthing of a new way forward with the game. But this happens in our game, and then it goes back and forward. You know, it's been set up for the little men to dominate through the speed of it. That's what they wanted. They wanted to bring fatigue into it. They wanted to bring the little guys back into the game. We've got a team where our coach went and, you know, our coach and Gus and everyone involved went and signed a bunch of players from good clubs who have been taught by some of the best systems out there that offer great utility value, but are also have, you know, can offer a lot in wherever they play. From Jamin Salmon, who's had to play in different positions, Kurt Mann, Jake Turpin, who's added value when he's come on, Bailey Hayward, who's come through as a half, who's, you know, like many halves, it's time to play hooker. But we've got an 80-minute hooker in Reid Marnie, who they only give him a break is if we've had a poor game and he's had to make 60 tackles in 60 minutes. But for the most part, those little halves that are now hookers are now becoming small locks. And we've seen that evolve over the last few years. Yes, we have. But I think it's, you know, you can't take anything away from the Canterbury coaching staff and the Canterbury club, from the people that they recruited. Aussie guy. Skelton has been playing very good since returning to the NRL squad. He gives me Sonny Bill Williams vibes when he runs the ball. I think he could become a good back row player going off his size. Yeah, I actually agree 100%. I think that's where I can imagine him offloading and doing that work. You could see it's not easy when you're the back three do so much running of the ball now. Like, it's just phenomenal. That's been happening for quite a few years now, but the amount of work they get through, it does gas them. You know, he was tired by the time they brought Blake Taff on. Really, probably Critter should have been the one getting a rest, but he's the captain and stuff. But Carraz appreciated it when he got to go on the wing for a little bit. And, you know, Blake Taff added a lot from that fullback position when he come on, because Carraz had sort of tired out. But Jarrell, to work on that edge, to tackle all day, to make 30, 40 tackles a game, or to look, a lot of edge back rowers might only make 20, 25, maximum 30 tackles a game. But their job is to put on so much pressure, and they've got to run laterally. They've got to move to that, you know, from the inside out. And when they do that effectively and when they chase everything, there's so much work in that as well. Like these positions are sort of, they've evolved into, not all of them suit the stats. Like look at a player like Jamin Salmon, he works his ass off, whether he's running support plays, whether he's moving inside out, and then they come in and do a few runs, chasing the from marker, putting on the pressure. It's all this effort stuff. It's all this 1% stuff that these edge back rowers do. And for Gerald Skelton to go from a winger into that, for Gerald Skelton to turn into that, it's going to take a transition as well. But I think the Bulldogs need to sign him, because to me, you're 100% right. If he can transition into that back row. He can play centre, he can play wing, he can play on the back row. He can offer a lot to us off the bench. Unfortunately, I feel he's going to get signed by somebody and get paid more money than the Dogs are willing to pay. But that's just the price of improving and doing well. And you can see the buzz around the Bulldogs at the moment is massive. And through the media, there's a lot of hype behind us, and there's also this feeling that waiting for the balloon to burst as well. I can feel that in my bones. But I know there's just something there I've sensed stuff in games where I just knew we were going to win, and I just knew. Whereas for so many years, and even back in the past when we were successful, there was times where I'm like, well, we're going to lose here. This has happened. Those little superstitious feelings you get watching the game. I'm sure we all get them. But I've just had this feeling of calm in a lot of games that I haven't had. And I'm confident that the plan is that they are going to bring in a bigger body towards the business end of the season. I think you're going to see the evolution of a couple of big props, whether they play a huge part in us moving forward, or whether they get some really important game time for our future. I think we're going to see a lot of that in the coming weeks. Injury will make sure that happens, but I just think their plan is that they're going to. Patola will get another crack. I think Liam Knight will get a crack, and come out and do something positive for his career. I think, as I said, Chris Patola. I think that Jack Todd might get that opportunity to have a run in the first grade side, and Kitione Katonga. He's another one who, after that mistake in defence against the Storm, which was a match-winning try, as it turned out, the way he's responded with the ball and a lot of stuff without the ball as well, has shown that he's someone who can be relied upon to come and get another crack and do well in the NRL for the Bulldogs. So, what's there? Lakeside, Taft's coming on late is a good strategy. You can turn the game when the big boys get tired. Yeah, I think it was perfect. And I actually commented on someone's post. Actually, Joash's dad, he said that Critter should be rested. And I actually agree with him. And I actually asked him, I said, do you think there's a chance that Taft goes to the bench and Carraz goes to fullback, or even Critter goes to fullback? And obviously, Critter I thought Critter would get a rest later in the game and Taft would come on and they'd have a reshuffle that way so they can keep Skelton in the side. And that's sort of how it panned out. We need at least one big bopper. Yeah, so that's what we've got to look at. So, look, the likely squad that I've got here this week, to go back to that against the Warriors, Skelton drops out. Carraz, I just think they're going to stick strong with that back line. King and Hughes, they made big meters on the weekend and did a really good job. I think Salmon will stay on that edge for another week. and they'll bring Preston off the bench, and Hopper will be the one to drop out. Now, Lipboy's done pretty good, I felt, in his time in the team, and I think on his second stint, I've got a feeling that this will be, with Preston coming back into the side, that he might be one to make way, especially with Kurt Mann coming in as well. I think that sort of pushes him out. And for that, I believe, when Lipboy makes another return to the NRL, I think we'll see him play a bit of football as well. He's not just the bash and barge that comes in, but look, for Lipboy, there's been lots talked about and that he's done really well. I don't think he's made a mistake in any of his matches. He hasn't dropped the ball. And then I believe that he, the best thing that he did, which will be really good for his confidence, is when he came on against the Roosters, and his first tackle was on Jared Warrior-Hargraves. And if you go back to the match and watch it, he smashed him. It didn't affect Jared, but he smashed him. He absolutely put that shoulder into him and showed that he's a man of the NRL. And they're the things that I watch. When Jared got to tackle Lipboy next, Lipboy didn't make too many post-contact, put it that way. But that's when when you get in there man on man and you go bang, and he did that. No one noticed it. No one said a thing about it. But these are you don't have to watch the game with the commentators on. You can actually just watch the game in silence. It's not much fun. It's good to have the atmosphere, and actually see the impacts and see how things go. And then you got technology, you can rewind it and watch it again. And that was a moment there for me. I like when a young guy comes on and puts on a good hit on someone who was really having a huge effect on the game. Like Jared, and it's not just one hit, though. They've got to do it for, 60 minutes, 50 minutes, 60 minutes if they want to be an NRL star in the future. But in saying that, he did. It just showed me he's got it in him to do it. And I like that. Lipboy was good. G'day, Just Bulldogs. How you going, mate? We have Silica Fafita, who should play in the Cup over the next couple of weeks. Could be a chance to be part of the side for the back end of the season. Yeah. We're probably going to call him DSF to make it easier for us. But he's someone who the Roosters thought was going to be the next big thing. They thought Powasa was going to be the next big thing. Both end up at the Bulldogs via other sides. Both have shown. Daniel showed at South Sydney that he's got what it takes. But that knee injury just means a team that wants success and wants it now. That's why we're getting players like that into our squad. That's why we got Max King. He'd had knee injuries galore. People weren't willing to risk their success on his knees. And that's the same as Daniel. He's come to us with an injury. I think the Dogs are going to persevere with him. But those knee injuries, is he going to be able to provide anything near his best this season? Probably not. They've been saying he's been due back for a while. He still hasn't come through yet. He still hasn't played. I'd like to see how they introduce him. Some people have these injuries, come back, have their surgery, and hit the ground running. But for the majority of people, it takes them a good 18 months. Look at Raymond Fatala-Mariner, even with that foot injury. It took him 18 to 24 months, and he was behind the 8 ball for us last year. He had 1 7 out of 10 game. Out of that, he was a passenger. But for the Dragons, he's been really solid and really good. It's got nothing to do with the fact he's in a new club. It's got to do with the fact that his body's getting confident and getting right. And for Daniel to have that confidence, is something that I'm not sure if he's going to be a huge part of us. But he could be. He could be someone that just plies away, just gets better and better, goes in New South Wales Cup, plays in a finals campaign there. Hopefully they're aligned, and then next minute he pops up on the bench for the Dogs in a semi-final. Like, I know it's getting ahead of ourselves, but I've seen situations like that, and they've been good for teams, Too many questions, not enough answers when it comes to him. Hope the rumours for Satili Tupanua is true to be an addition to the pack. Well, Lakeside, looking at this small ball, he is the type of player, everyone, we've been sitting there going, why are we signing another back rower? Why are we signing another utility? Why are we signing another winger? And now we want to sign another edge back rower. Satili Tupanua, to me, looks like he could play. He could, look, Josh Curran, you wouldn't say he's a prop in the NRL, would you? But he has been for us, and he's been a good one. He's been doing his best, and Satili Tupanua nearly ran down Jarrell Skelton. He's got some legs, which means he's got a motor, which means he's got heart. He's got all the attributes we're looking at. But still, I can't see how the Roosters can't afford him. I know, like they're salary cap cheats and all whatever, but they're losing $3 million of salary cap. They should be able to upgrade Angus and him to $1 million each, and they should be able to afford it. If they can afford their team that they've got now, and they've got hardly anyone coming in, how can they not afford to keep these two players? It doesn't make sense to me. They've got Luke Keary, they've got Manu, they've got bloody Joseph Suwali, they've got Jared Warrior-Hargraves. What are they on? 200 grand each. If those four players leaving is about $3 million in cap, how could they not afford to keep Satili Tupanua? Maybe they're being audited properly and they're being told, get your fucking shit together. Because since Volandis has come to the NRL, there's been no questions on anyone's salary cap from the NRL. Nothing public at all. Remember, every year we'd see these headlines. There'd be articles that these 8 teams have breached the salary cap between amounts of, $10,000 and $130,000. And they've all been received fines from the NRL. It used to happen every single year. The Broncos would be 25 grand over religiously. Bulldogs would be over 20 grand every year. The Roosters are probably never ever over. Such is the way they cheated. But anyway, I digress. DSF coming off a long-term leg injury. He will need a pre-season to get up to fitness that this squad requires. G'day, D. How you going? I think that's correct. I think I could have responded in that succinct way. Would have been a lot better thing to say than what I said. Lakeside, Tupanua can play centre as well. Well, he could if he had to. So he offers that versatility. That's why these players should be. These are the players who are going to be worth a lot more money. The way things are going. The Roosters paper bags don't get audited. I can tell you now, there's not. I don't think there's too many paper bags anymore, but there's always been much bigger things. Anyway, I won't say too much more. Let's look into the games coming up. Let's check them out, shall we? The Warriors, I'll do another full preview on this Warriors game during the week. I'll actually be on another podcast. And I might get him to come on ours as well. So I'll do 2 of those. So it's going to be a busy week. So we've got the Warriors. Tracy, Kurt Mann, Jacob Preston coming to our side. It is important. I think it's very important for us defensively, but I think it's going to be very important for the inroads we can make against their big boppers. The Warriors are awake to the way things are playing, though. As I said, that the most mobile bench they've had all season. Their teams are waking up to how it's going. We then have the bye. Now, I'm dead set hoping we can beat the Warriors at home. It's another such important game. You know, we win this game, I'd be putting money on us to make the top 8. We lose this game, it brings us back to the pack a bit, and it makes things really difficult. We then get the bye, which will give us the illusion that we're still in 6th or 7th position, or potentially even 5th. But then we've got to go on that road trip against the Cowboys and the Broncos. Now, the Cowboys are a team which I think we match up pretty well against. But playing in Townsville in that heat, it will be at 6:15 p.m., which is a good time to play them. On a Sunday, the last game of the round, you never know what it's supposed to be. Dry season up there, but you should have said the rain the other day in the Origin, so you just don't know what's going on when it comes to weather at the moment. I'd expect a dry track, a nice warm night, and the Bulldogs to be in a really tight contest. Back to the Broncos. They'll have no Adam Reynolds. He's imperative to them. They will have the likes of the Payne Hussers. When's Origin 3 on, actually? 17th of July. Okay. So we're playing the Cowboys after Origin 3. So it's good that we're playing them after we've had a bye. They're having a bye as well. So that cancels out this, is the bye bad or is it good sort of stuff. Both teams off the bye, which is really good to play a team off the bye when we are. So they'll have the likes of Val Holmes backing up, Reuben Cotter, and maybe a couple of others, Nanai. So we'll likely just have Stephen Crichton backing up. Can't see Burton breaking his way in unless there's some injuries to the side. So, yeah, that's going to be very, very important again. So Critter at least gets a good, he'll probably just stay in Queensland after Origin and just head straight to Townsville potentially. So they can get acclimatised and whatever else. So he'll get a few days off and he should be ready to go. But then we've got to back up 6 days later against the Broncos on Saturday at 3 p.m, something the Broncos aren't used to doing too often. So that's another thing. I'll be going to that game. I'll be looking, hopefully seeing the Bulldogs win for the second time since 2019 in Queensland. It's been a long time between drinks for the Dogs in Queensland, in Brisbane. Or in Brisbane, I mean, at Suncorp. I'd say there'll be about 30 to 35,000 people there on a Sunday afternoon. It's going to be a great atmosphere. And I really hope the Bulldogs will be able to do well against the Broncos, who will be fighting for their life at this point. The desperation for them at this point is going to be as high as it's ever been, where they currently sit on the ladder. Then we go back to Belmore 8 days later into the Raiders at 4 p.m. I wish I could be at this game. I think it's going to be a nail-biter and another one that's going to, the Raiders are a gritty, tough side with a huge forward pack. And as we saw against the Melbourne Storm, the likes of KO Weeks, they've got speed to burn. And he's getting more and more confident, had some bad blunders as well. He was a fullback at Manly. They thought he was going to be the next big thing. He's gone to the Raiders, played in their halves, played a fullback. I think he is someone that the Raiders have got some of the best young kids coming through, and they've got a lot of them. And they're getting that kid from the Eels as well, along with Ethan Strange there. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Don't you worry about that. The Raiders, their time will come. A lot of people don't get that, but, you should, because they're going to come at, they're going to be a team that, as we're hitting the rise, so are the Raiders as well. I think we might, they're sort of falling back to the pack, but they're still gritty and tough. Give them a couple of years, and some of those young kids could be very hard to deal with for any side. We then go to Cogra 6 days later to play the Dragons. I think that's going to be another big game with a lot riding on it. These Dragons boys and that big pack as well. But, they played that big ball against our small ball, and we ran roughshod over the top of them. It didn't help them losing their centre, obviously. And that's what we're talking about, guys. That's what we're talking about. Having all this versatility and utility value is so important in today's game. You can't, if things are likely to go wrong, when they do, and the Canterbury Club's selections have proven to be very beneficial in a lot of matches. And even in matches we lost, as I said, where we look like the better side, it just comes down to confidence and a lack of winning and all that sort of stuff. We still struggle. There's still a bit of a lack of belief. Even after so many games, we've given a start and come home and won. I don't see the Warriors beating us this week. A lot of people won't see the Warriors beating us this week. But as I said, that game against the Broncos, they played a very similar match as the Sharks played against us. And I just think that their halves will ask more questions. Nico Hines is not even in the best 12 or 13 halves in the competition at the moment, such as his confidence is down. If his confidence is up, he's a really good player. He's got a lot of talent, and he will be a very good player one day if he can manage that confidence. But yeah, if you put a better halfback or into that side and they win that game. And for the Bulldogs, getting now some players back is going to be great. The likes of the Connor Tracys, the Kurt Manns, and the Jacob Prestons, I think really does enhance our chances of winning. But I'm not going to ride off that Warriors side. I'm very worried about this game, like I have been every game I've talked about. I don't see the Warriors beating us next week. We have a full-strength team. Terry Lane's birthday won't be the only thing the Bulldogs celebrate this September. I've got to love Terry Lamb. What a champion, hey, D. Yeah, what a champion. I've talked about him a lot, though. I'm not going to repeat myself. I could talk about Terry all day. I love him. Okay. We then go from our little Sydney retreat. We got a week to get ourselves to Bundaberg to play the Dolphins. And it's funny, we play the Dragons, who have about, three Bulldogs in the side. They were in our team last year, Raymond Fatala-Mariner, Kyle Flanagan, and New Brown. We go to the Dolphins, who have Jake Averillo, Jeremy Marshall-King, and Tavita Pangai Jr. Did he play today? They lost today, didn't they? Let me have a look at that. Did Tavita play? I'll have a look later, but after we played the Dolphins, and I've got that game penciled in as a, these are play. Jeremy Marshall-King's now on more money than Reid Marnie. He's the contract he just signed. Jakey Averillo's on $450 and playing well, playing worth every cent for them. And everyone knows my thoughts on Jakey. And Tavita Pangai Jr. He'll be out to play well against us. And it's funny with Tavita, I felt that he always plays well against the teams he played for. So he played well against the Broncos, I felt, in our game at Belmore. He was one that actually, he made one stuff up, but he made up for it straight away with a really good offload to Toby Sexton. And then Averillo under the posts. But, yeah, he'll turn up for that match. It's that matchup's going to be massive, and I hope we've got a full-strength side. and I hope we can go up there into Bundy and obliterate the Dolphins, not just beat them, obliterate them. I'd love to see it. The Dolphins got a lot of advantages in this comp, and people can talk them up as much as they want. They're a club with so much history. They're a traditional club. They've got so many of their players have represented Australia and Queensland and other things prior to them becoming an NRL club. You know, they've got a huge history. They've got a huge nursery, and they are going to be successful. And I want us to obliterate them. After that, we then got to basically get on the plane straight away and travel to Auckland for a Friday night match, 6 p.m. Warriors at home. You know, if I'm doing my ladder predictor, we're not beating the Warriors at home on that road trip. If we can, it'll be phenomenal. But it's a 4.5 day turnaround, even though it's 6 days. Coming back's not quite as bad from Auckland to Sydney, and then we've got that turnaround into the Friday night match against the Seagulls, and then an 8 day turnaround into a 5:30 match at a call. So we finish with 2 home games against the Seagulls and the Cowboys, and you can just see it now. The Seagulls and the Cowboys and the Warriors and the Dolphins, those last 4 matches that we play, those 4 sides are all going to be in contention to make the 8 if they can win. It's actually phenomenal. Every game we play from here on in is to a side which is currently just in the 8 or a real good chance of making the 8. So our destiny's in our own hands. But it's almost like semi-final football. Every match we have to play because these sides can't afford to give up games to the Bulldogs. And this is why it's going to come down to, it's going to be so important. It's going to be so important that we get the majority of games as wins in these games. From now until the end of the season, for all the sides that we play, every one of them is a grand final for these teams that we play because the majority of them are below us on the ladder, right? Even if they got better squads, supposedly. You know, and a lot of us fans at the moment wouldn't want to trade too many players in for the ones that we've got. A lot of these sides have got bigger forward packs, and a lot of these sides are going to be absolutely desperate to win. And if they don't win, their seasons could be gone. So the Bulldogs is a game on every one of these teams' calendar that they must win if they're going to play finals. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that for these sides. With the draws they've all got, you know, they can't be thinking, if they think, oh, we can lose to the Bulldogs. So we've got a target on us now. And this is what brings me to the final point. I think this phase 3 of this plan is to bring in some fresh middles over the next 9 rounds, over the next 9 games. I think we will see Patolo. I think we will see Liam Knight. I think we may see a Jack Todd. We may even see an appearance of Daniel Saluka Fafita. We may see Kitiani Katonga. We may see Poasa Farmasili. I think we'll definitely see Poasa because he's been in and around and he's trying his heart out and he wants to be a first grader. I think they will all, whether they all get selected or just a few, neither here nor there. And it could be wrong. They might just keep going with the same philosophy that they've got and roll it through to the end of the season, try and perfect their craft with the way they go about it, win enough games, make it, and then see what happens. But if they're serious about top 4, if they're serious about top 8, if they're serious about winning the comp in 2024, I'm thinking that part of the plan is to have some of these fresh middles come in Have been getting their fitness up, plying their trade, get a few minutes here and there, and then slowly build their input to give us that impact and to give us that ability to roll through the middle. Because as we've seen in games against like the Panthers, which I think was the best 20 minutes of the season I've seen from both those sides all year, first 20, I felt that period against the Sharks, even though the Sharks had the dominance with the meters they were making on the ground, we were, nullifying that with the kick meters that Burton was making. But we were conceding so many meters coming back. They weren't conceding as much, but then they had to all run back for the Burton kicks. We were doing it tougher, but then we were wrestling back some control until Kraz didn't go up for that last jump, and then they got that extra try. But look, he was phenomenal that day. I wasn't having a crack at him. He did his best. We're a bit stifled in attack. I think we'll be a lot better over the next couple of games when it comes to our attack, getting those players back in our side. I think Kurt Mann's important for our attack. He really straightens it up. His footwork in the middle makes it hard. He gets those extra little meters you don't expect he's going to get, and he often gets away some good quick play the balls. And he showed against the Roosters that he could pull off a move and an offload and put someone through. So he's another player that I think is really important for us moving forward. So yes, as I said, every team's got a target on us now because every side we play is a chance of making the finals. A really good chance with the draws they've got too. And teams like Canterbury, they're expecting to win. Does that work for us or work against us? We've got a few pockets of games. You break them up into games of 2 or 3. Beating the Warriors this week for us is massive in regards to our whole season. Winning one of the games against the Cowboys and the Broncos is massive in our whole season. Then winning one of the games against Canberra and the Dragons. And then you've got Bundaberg, Auckland, back to Sydney for 2 home games at the end, which I think really works in our favour. Because there's going to be none of these, I don't see any of these games being dead rubbers the whole way through. And that's exciting this far out. We normally get to start getting to about round 18, 19, 20, and then it's like, oh, this game's just a rubbish game. All of these sides have an opportunity, and so much so that teams that have got a lot of players playing Origin and stuff, it's impacting them more than ever. But interesting times ahead. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining tonight. We've gone for an hour. Appreciate everybody's questions and comments that they've made. I'll be posting this for people to watch. We should definitely, I'll be doing another, we're doing a preview of the Warriors game, focusing on that. Lakeside, if we can win next week and go to the bye, it's massive. Yeah, 100% always is. It's like a 4-point game. Takes us to 24 points and gives us a little bit of breathing room, I think. We lose the game where it just means the stress and anxiety levels just remain. Beat the Warriors and win one of the next 2 games after that against the Cowboys and the Broncos, and we're starting to look pretty. Starting to look pretty, but looking at the run home for the Roosters, Sharks, Panthers and Storm, those 4 teams, in my opinion, something would have to massively go wrong for any of them for them not to get that top 4. Even if we won a couple of extra games, we'd be still outsiders to make the top 4 out of those 4 sides. I think the outside perception of our team mirrors Bailey Hayward's season, both being extremely underrated. Do you think Bailey is one of the most underrated in the competition? The pretty Bulldogs. D, you asked a really good question there, and I was about to go, but that intrigues me and I like it. Thank you. Bailey Hayward. I've talked a lot about Bailey this year, and I, for mine, looked at his name after watching him in Cup a couple of years ago, and thought, yeah, he's got skills and he looked like he could be a good halfback, but I don't know if he'll get there defensively. There's some defensive efforts which I weren't happy with. Then when he gets his crack, and his first one to the way he was just the line speed and the first to the contact and putting his body on the line and good technique, I was just like, well, I'm sold. I was wrong. Thank you. You know, and it's like, keep the faith. Trust the process. I still think Bailey drops out of our best 17 moving forward in saying that. And that's not a bad thing. I think Kurt Mann just is just got that harder edge. He's got that leg speed and makes that ground through the middle. He's also very reliable in the middle defensively. And I just think he takes his spot. And when you've got both Preston and Kickow in the side at full tilt, Jamin Salmon, then I think is the one you rotate with Kurt Mann ahead of Bailey Hayward. But there's nothing wrong with that. But if Bailey might keep his spot and look, on the weekend, I felt he was someone who really put in 100% effort, gave it his all, and did well for us. I think if we have a Kurt Mann in that situation, though, I think we make a few more meters, we offer a little bit more in attack. But in saying that, Bailey Hayward's got the skills to kick. You know, he did the kick through, the grubber through. He actually went for it and got the penalty. Jared Sutton, as much as we hate him and he's a cheat, he's a momentum ref. He felt Canterbury had the momentum at that point. Bailey was a chance and he got held back. Yeah, he called the penalty. Many would have let it go. If we were playing Souths, I'm sure he lets that go. But Bailey, if Bailey doesn't do that, we don't win that match. We're sitting on 18 points. Different kettle of fish. Sharks are now a chance at the top two. Bailey's been great. Kurt back for sure. Agree Sutton is a cheat. Good call. Well, Sutton was good for us on the weekend. He missed two. He missed two reports. So we had two players put on report, which we didn't get they didn't get penalties for, which that never happens for us. So that was in our favour. And then we had one go our way where, you know, Blake Wilson, to me, it was a crusher. It was a penalty. It had to be a penalty. I didn't think he put him on report. Don't send him off. Fair enough. Paul Gallen was having a whinge. Why? The only thing you can whinge about is that they didn't pull up Braden Trindle. But what's fucking Gallen talking about? Like, his winger in his team, every single game goes down and tries to get a penalty. Every single game. Got his fucking name. Not Mulatalo, the other one. Katoga or whatever his name is. Every game he goes down. Oh, I'm hurt. What's Gallen talking about? Yeah, we are lucky that Trindle didn't stay down. And good on him for not staying down. Probably cost his team the win. Going back to D and Bailey Hayward. So, yeah, D, I think Bailey, we don't win that game without him because he gets us a penalty to tie it up. Right? And I don't think we were scoring, to be honest. Just wasn't happening. Which was making a lot of people frustrated. And there's a whole bunch of people, guys. There's a whole bunch of fans which piss me off because they're sitting there right now. If we lose to the Warriors next week, they're gonna go on and on and on and on and on. Oh, Serrato picks the wrong team. This, that, and the other. If Serrato picks the wrong team, he picks the wrong team. Who's to say any other people he picked would have made it better for us? You win some, you lose some. I think the Bulldogs against the Warriors is going to be a blockbuster. We must win. 24 points. And you can almost start counting the pennies into the finals. Because it's going to show a lot. They're going to play that same sort of style that the Sharks did. They're going to be up for it. Their season requires them to win some away games. Their season requires them to beat the Bulldogs. If they don't beat us, their chances of making the 8, cut in half. To make up 5 points rather than 1 point, because that's what it's going to be for them. They go from 3 points outside to 5 points outside if they lose to the Bulldogs this week. They're going to be desperate. I think we'll see a Warriors side perform very well, and the Bulldogs side that's got some players back that knows it's going to have to get itself up. But the one thing in our favour is that teams that have got the bye after the game generally are naturally just so desperate regardless. So it just makes for a desperate game of football. I think it's going to be a semi-final intensity, and there's going to be a lot of fans at Accor, and I hope the Dogs can get it done. I think we can beat the Warriors next week and undefeated on our home ground this year. That's right, 7-0. We're looking to make it 8-0. Love that. Love that we're building a fortress there, and the fans are coming back and, getting big crowds. It's good. But there'll be so much desperation from both sides. We'll leave it at that, guys. It's a desperate time of year. Every game is desperate for both the sides playing it, more so than I've seen at any point at this part of the season. Usually you've got some games where you're playing some teams above you, which, have got little to lose, that they're going well, and, they can have a bad game and it won't hurt their season, or you've got teams that are out of contention. Every team we play is in contention, and it looks like going through the draw that every side we play is still going to be in contention come round 25, come round 24. And that's phenomenal. So there's a lot of hype there. There's a lot of motivation for every team to do well and play well. G'day, Burke. How you going, mate? I'm just about to jump off. Hopefully you enjoy the podcast, brother. We'll be doing one with Warriors Fanatics this week, maybe on my podcast and on theirs as well. We'll see how that goes. So tune into those guys. That'll be interesting to hear what a Warriors fanatic has to say. But I'll be especially, I'm fired up for this game. I really am. For a lot of Kiwis who support the Warriors also support the Bulldogs, where we've got a lot of Kiwis support the Dogs. And you got their dog supporters who the Warriors are their second team as well. There should be a lot of support out there at Accor. It should be a good atmosphere. So hopefully everyone turns up. Anyway, guys, I'll chat to you soon. Enjoy your Sunday night. Have a good week at work, and go the Bulldogs.